and welcome to another episode of The Squeeze from Marketing Juice with me, Mark Baxter, and our founder and owner, Miranda Imperi.
Hello.
Okay, so Miranda, I love working with you, but quite frankly, I feel it's time to capitalise on my silky voice and my great looks. I'm thinking of going out all viral and becoming my own influencer because it seems like a much easier gig. Can you help me get there?
I can't lie. That's actually something an employee said to me once. It was hard to take it seriously, but it is kind of a dream career for a lot of people. What we need to know is how much actual work it takes, and I think that there's a lot of misconceptions around what an influencer does day to day, how much influencer marketing costs for businesses, and how influencers actually become viral. So I thought on today's episode, we can kind of clear up some of that misinformation and help business owners to understand really what that is like. And then with all that information, you can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to change careers into the influencer style marketing.
Maybe not as much fun as I thought it was going to be.
Probably not.
Okay, well, I look forward to finding out more. Catch us on The Squeeze. So, you're going to dash my dreams here. You don't think I can cut it as an influencer is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I don't think that. I think anybody can cut it as an influencer if they're willing to work 100 hours a week.
100 hours?
I'm not exaggerating. I mean, literally, influencers are working around the clock. And I think a lot of times when we look at these, YouTube creators, TikTok creators, we look at their videos and they're maybe 1 to 5 minutes, right? And it's like, oh, they create 1-minute videos every single day, and then the rest of their day, they're just kind of lounging on the couch while they get sent all kinds of free stuff in the mail.
That's what I'm thinking.
Not true. I mean, these people are spending hours upon hours, like all day long, making sure that they are creating enough content to stay relevant. They are polishing their content to make it look super professional. They're bolstering up their skills on video editing and graphics and writing and messaging and what resonates with their audience. They're doing all kinds of work behind the scenes, coordinating with businesses that they're representing. And, there's often times like when influencers are sponsoring posts on behalf of companies, they have to do a good bit of research into the products that they're representing, or there's sometimes, mandates from those companies that are, you can't say this language, in your posts, and you have to talk about it in this specific way, and you need to have a video that shows these things, taking videos from your cell phone, especially first-person ones, and then going through and editing video. I mean, just to edit a minute-long video, to make sure it's cut down appropriately, that those graphics that come in from the sides, putting captions on stuff might take a couple hours just for 60 seconds, right?
As I used to be a journalist working with news crews, which is about the fastest editing you could possibly get. By definition, their rule of thumb was an hour a minute, and that was news.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it's a totally viable career choice if that's what you want, but it takes these people years oftentimes to get to the point where we see them today, where they actually start coming through our news feeds and we're, exposed to them and they become household names, right? They work for years, thousands of hours leading up to that to build their content library, to make themselves relevant in society today. And I just think that, there's a whole generation of people who are looking at them and saying, oh, I can do that. I can do that too. And realizing very quickly once they're attempting it that a 40-hour-a-week job is actually much less demanding.
So what I'm hearing is it's just like somebody who looks at a Hollywood star or a pop singer or a professional sports person. Somebody can do it. Somebody has to do it. Somebody can do it.
Right.
But not everybody in the playground is going to grow up to be one.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and if you're prepared to put in that work, you can become very successful. It's a very lucrative career option. But you're not going to be able to take a vacation. You're not going to be able to take a break. You're literally working around the clock because the internet doesn't stop. And there's always going to be a new thing popping up behind you that you're going to have to compete with, right? And that's anxiety inducing for a lot of these content creators. We've been entering into this creator economy where, a lot of people are gig workers and that they're doing these side hustles, and many of them are these social media influencers. I mean, they are constantly on high alert to what's going on around them to make sure that they stay relevant and their following, continues to grow, because that's how they make their money.
So it sounds like a lot of marketing.
Yes. So most of the money is made by these companies paying these influencers to sponsor content on their channels, right? And so companies will pay anywhere from $400 to thousands of dollars for just one single post, So businesses should be wary of that. Using influencers to get your product off the ground, to get your service off the ground, to get your brand name recognized by a wider audience or a new audience is a very effective strategy, especially when it comes to brand recognition, household name kind of stuff. But it's expensive to get there. I mean, if you think about like the amount of time a post is going to last on a feed, right? Even if it does go viral, I mean, you're going to interact with it for 30 seconds, and then move on from it. And so that post needs to be very impactful. The influencer has to be relevant to your business, and you're probably going to have to pay for it several times over to make it really mean anything to your bottom line.
That sounds expensive.
It is. It's typically not a strategy that we recommend to small business clients with small marketing budgets, because you can quickly get into the tens of thousands of dollars within a year of just doing influencer marketing. And there are plenty of businesses that have built their, following and built their brand recognition on influencer marketing. However, there's lots of studies too that show that getting an influencer to produce a viral video on behalf of your brand does not always translate to revenue, right? It doesn't translate to profit and dollars in your pocket, right? It just gets everybody talking and understanding what your brand is.
Isn't that good?
It is good, but it goes back to one of our earlier episodes when we talked about how engagement on social posts is not really your chief metric. It's not really your deciding factor of success. Ultimately, your deciding factor is your total revenue, right? If your revenue is increasing as a result of increased engagement, then yes, engagement is effective for you. But if you're not seeing a correlation between money and engagement and likes and comments and follows and all of that stuff, then investing so much time and energy and marketing dollars into that strategy doesn't make sense.
So it sounds as though this influencer world is great as a spectator, but is quite a bit more complicated to actually be in or to utilize as a business.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a tough career. And it's a tricky marketing strategy. And there are agencies that actually specialize in just influencer marketing. And I mean, we have partners that we utilize that do influencer marketing for our clients, but entry-level price points are high, just to get those type of posts out there with these influencers.
Is there any such concept as, because the internet's global, is there any such concept as local influencers that are like big in an area but maybe not nationally or internationally?
Absolutely.
Is there such a thing?
Yes, we often recommend to our clients who are interested in pursuing this strategy that they organically try to reach out to micro influencers in their own community. It's a lot better, to have let's say, we're in Cleveland, right? And you have a Cleveland Rocks, Cleveland food blogger, who's got a few thousand people who are following them on their social channels, right? Those few thousand people, they're not as many as the 72,000 people this other food influencer has, right? But those few thousand people are hyper targeted to your specific location. So if you're a Cleveland restaurant or a Cleveland caterer, you might have a better success going to a micro influencer in your local area and having them represent your brand. And you're also going to pay much less to sponsor that content than you would to sponsor the content of somebody with hundreds of thousands of followers, right?
So again, that might be why it's worth working with a local firm or a smaller firm than going straight to the big brands you've heard of.
Exactly, yeah. The last thing that I would want to touch on is that it's pretty common that we get approached by clients and we are asked to create, some sort of viral content or how to create viral content for their business. And it's important that we address like the myth of virality. The way that we perceive the internet and perceive these influencers is that they're just overnight successes, right? Like somebody just landed on a witty, post or a funny video and they posted it and it just took off without anything that they had to do on their end. And that is demonstrably false. It looks that way from our perspective because we don't see all of the work that goes into submitting that to multiple channels and sharing it around in groups and keeping it moving, across the whole internet for a long time. It's much more difficult and much more complicated, and also it can be expensive. We look at companies that kind of like come up out of nowhere, right? Like Uber just all of a sudden became this amazing concept and success, right? For us in Ohio here, because we weren't in the state or the city that Uber was like beginning development, right? So we didn't see it until it was like this big success, right? And so it seemed like, oh, this overnight success company, but that's not true. That took years of development and, crowdsourcing and investor funding. And even though they became this huge success, it took them many years after they became a success and a kind of a household name to even become profitable as a business.
So that critical mass is got to achieve that critical mass first.
Exactly. And business owners who are wanting that to happen for their business, or just individuals too, wanting viral content from their own content, right? What needs to understand is that you need to be able to understand what has to happen first in order to get that content to go viral, and the amount of time and money and effort behind that viral content, and that you're prepared to put that forth, right? It's not that we're just gonna like put a post out there and everyone's gonna glom onto that post, right? It's just not how it happens on the internet. And I think clearing that up for business owners is gonna change the way that we approach that marketing in the future with more managed expectations.
I think maybe I'll rethink my plans to be an influencer, maybe stay with the day job.
Don't give up just yet. It's always there for you if you need it. Yeah.
That is true. Well, thank you, Miranda, for explaining the world of influencing and virality.
No problem.
Catch us next time on The Squeeze.